Today, we are diving into a huge shift that's happening right now in the world of farming. You see, for decades, the swine industry has pretty much relied on the same old methods, but all of that is changing. We're going to unpack how farmers are moving away from those old tools and instead are unlocking the power of nature to raise healthier pigs.
Okay, so let's get right into this. What is this one tool we're talking about? Well, it's antibiotics. For a really long time, they weren't just used to treat sick animals. They were used as a standard practice to make them grow faster. But here's the catch. We're now facing a massive global problem called antimicrobial resistance. And that single issue has forced the entire industry to step back and ask a really tough question. Is there a better, more natural way to do this?
And that question brings us right to our first section. Look, the concerns around antibiotic resistance are not just some scary headline. They have kicked off a fundamental, ground-level shift in how farming is done. Regulators, consumers, everyone is demanding a change, pushing farmers to find sustainable alternatives that are safe for the animals and, safe for us too.
Now this is where you can really see the two philosophies side by side. On one hand, you have the old way, antibiotics. Think of it as kind of a blunt instrument. Yeah, it promoted growth, but it came with this major side effect of contributing to resistance. On the other hand, we have the new way with what are called natural growth promoters, or NGPs. This approach is so much smarter, so much more targeted. Instead of just carpet bombing all the bacteria, it focuses on building a stronger, more resilient animal from the inside out. And here's the absolute key. It does all this without contributing to antibiotic resistance.
So what exactly is this new way? Well, that brings us right to Section 2, Nature's Smart Solution. We're talking about those natural growth promoters, the NGPs. These are the innovative, sustainable answers that are stepping up to fill the gap that antibiotics left behind. So what is an NGP, really? I mean, this definition nails it. They are substances that come directly from nature. We're talking about things from plants, beneficial microbes, and other natural compounds. They work in three really cool ways. They help the pig digest its food way better, they create a healthy balance of good bacteria in the gut, and they actually strengthen the animal's own immune system. It's all about working with the animal's natural biology, not against it.
And the benefits? They're huge. First and foremost, you get zero contribution to antibiotic resistance. That right there is the absolute game changer. But it gets even better. They actively improve the animal's gut, which means it gets way more nutrients from its food. That leads to a stronger natural immunity. So the pig is just better at fighting off sickness all on its own. And as a pretty great bonus, these are eco-friendly solutions. It's a win for the animal, a win for the farmer, and a win for the planet.
Okay, so moving on to our next section, you have to understand, this isn't about some single magic ingredient. It's more like farmers now have this entire toolbox full of different NGPs they can use. And just like any good mechanic, it's all about picking the right tool for the right job. And this slide gives us a fantastic tour of what's in that toolbox. First up, you've got phytogenics. These are powerful compounds from plants. Then there are probiotics. Those are the good guys, the beneficial bacteria. After that, you've got prebiotics, which are basically the food that feeds those good bacteria. And finally, organic acids, which help make the gut a really unfriendly place for bad bacteria to grow. Each one has its own special job. Let's zoom in on that first tool, phytogenics. This is pure plant power. Seriously, we're talking about compounds from things you probably have in your own kitchen right now, like oregano oil, garlic, even turmeric. And these things do more than just add flavor. They have potent natural antimicrobial effects. They help kickstart the pig's own digestive enzymes, and they can even make the feed taste better.
Okay, now for probiotics. How in the world do they work? Well, it all comes down to a concept called competitive exclusion. Picture the pig's gut wall as prime real estate in a neighborhood. When you introduce probiotics, it's like a whole bunch of friendly, helpful neighbors move in and take up all the available houses and resources. This literally crowds out the bad guys, like E. coli, leaving them with nowhere to set up shop and cause trouble. It's a really simple but brilliant natural defense.
And believe me, the toolbox doesn't stop there. Farmers are also using things like enzymes that help break down the tougher parts of feed, unlocking more nutrients. There are yeast derivatives that act like tiny little sponges, soaking up toxins and pathogens so they can be safely removed. And then you have extracts from seaweed and algae, which are like a super concentrated vitamin boost. The sheer variety of natural solutions is just incredible.
So we've seen all the amazing tools in the box, but how do farmers actually put them to work? That's what Section 4 is all about.
The real secret here is applying the right combination of NGPs at the right time in a pig's life.
For example, take the weaning phase. This is an incredibly stressful time for a piglet. Their immune system is still developing, and they're more likely to get sick. So what's the solution? A very specific cocktail of NGPs. You use probiotics to introduce good bacteria, organic acids to keep pathogens at bay, and something called MOS, a prebiotic, to support overall gut health. It's a targeted strategy for a very specific challenge.
But then, as the pig gets older, the goals change. During what's called the grower-finisher phase, the name of the game is maximizing growth as efficiently as possible. So the NGP strategy shifts. Here, phytogenics like oregano oil plus those digestive enzymes become the perfect tools to make sure that pig gets every last bit of nutrition from its food.
And what about the breeding sows, the mothers? Well, their needs are totally different. The focus is on their overall health and making sure they have successful pregnancies. For them, a combination of yeast derivatives and probiotics is ideal to maintain their gut health and improve how nutrients get passed on to their piglets. See, it's always about the right tool for the right job at exactly the right time.
Okay, so this all sounds like a perfect solution, right? A total silver bullet. But it's not quite that simple. In our final section, let's get real about the hurdles farmers have to overcome, and then look at the really exciting road that lies ahead for these natural solutions.
You know, it's not as easy as just tossing some oregano into the feed. Farmers have to be part scientists here. They need to figure out the exact right dosage. Too little won't work, and too much might not either. They also have to make sure these natural compounds can actually survive the intense heat of the feed-making process. And, of course, there's the cost. These high-quality NGPs can be more expensive up front, so farmers have to balance that cost against the long-term payoff of having much healthier animals.
But, and this is the exciting part, the future is incredibly bright. The research here is moving at lightning speed. Scientists are creating what they call synergistic blends, where different NGPs are combined to become even more powerful together. They're using something called precision fermentation to literally design custom probiotics for super specific tasks. And they're even finding brilliant ways to create NGPs sustainably from things like agricultural waste products. The innovation is just getting started.
And all of this leaves us with one last big, important thought. We've just seen how this natural, science-backed approach is completely changing the game in the swine industry, so the question is, where else could this work? Could these exact same principles, working with nature to build health and resilience from the inside out, completely revolutionize the rest of our food system? It's a pretty powerful idea to think about.